My name is Jo. I'm a natural medicine practitioner working in South Korea. In my office, I take care of many difficult sicknesses or diseases, and angina is one of the symptoms that I handle on everyday basis. There are many types of angina, as you know well, but now let me talk a little about the variant angina, which is quite specific. Variant angina is quite different from other types of common angina symptoms. Even though the symptoms is quite similar to each other, the variant angina specifically have a very different pathology that is quite different from other types of anginas. The fact is that vasoconstriction or narrowing of the coronary arteries is the major culprit for the development of the variant angina, and the fact is that it is very difficult to control the vasoconstriction of the coronary arteries by conventional medical practices. Stent implementation, bypass surgery is not an option for the patients with this type of angina because they are of little value or of little use. The fact is that the restoration of the normal functions of the coronary arteries is the only solution to the variant angina, because the variant angina comes from the deterioration of the functions of the coronary arteries in a very specific way. So the most important thing is that we need to understand and we need to approach the problem by make the coronary arteries relaxed and widened and comfortable. So the restoration of the normal functions of the coronary arteries is how to restore the sicknesses very easily, and we need to approach the problem by relaxing and by restoring the normal functions of the coronary arteries. And that is exactly what we do with our patients with variant angina, and in many cases our natural medical protocols work much better than the conventional medical drugs. Unfortunately, most patients with variant angina have to take the prescription drugs for the rest of their lives without exception, because the prescription drugs is the only options for them to take. However, on many occasions, the prescription drugs does not work quite well for the patients as most people imagine. On many occasions, they fail to work better, so the patients have to be through a lot of difficulties on everyday basis, even though they take the prescription drugs diligently. So, by natural methods, we can offer very effective and very wonderfully working natural protocols for the patients with a variant angina. And now let me explain a little bit more about the pathology of the variant angina. The fact is that there are specific reasons for the vasoconstriction or narrowing of the coronary arteries. Actually, in reality, the existences of the toxicities of the heavy metals plays a very important role in causing the disease. So this means that when the blood flows along the coronary arteries, the toxicities of the heavy metals still flows along the bloodstreams, and they can damage the internal walls of the coronary arteries. And this can damage the coronary arteries, resulting in their symptoms or sicknesses of the variant angina. So, what do you think is the most fundamental solution to this problem? We definitely believe that by removing toxic metals from our bodies, we can relieve the symptoms of the variant angina by restoring the normal functions of the coronary arteries. This is exactly what we do with our patients with variant angina, and we can achieve much better outcomes in many cases from these symptoms, and we are sure that we will work very well with most of our patients with variant angina. Most of my angina patients with variant angina have felt much better, and they feel very satisfied with the outcomes they got from my clinical practice. Now let me explain a little bit more how to find out the toxicities of the heavy metals. The toxicities of heavy metals, as I said, is the major culprit, so we need to analyze whether the toxicities of the heavy metal really exist in the patient's body. Now let me explain how to detect the toxicities of the heavy metals in the patient's body. Now let me introduce you to one of my patients with variant angina who feel very satisfactory with what he got from my clinical practice. Before he come to my office, he had been with variant angina, having a lot of difficulties in his everyday lives because of the chest pains. He could not do his usual activities because of the pain, and he have to be through a lot of symptoms such as shortness of breath and loss of concentration or other similar symptoms. So this causes a lot of problems in his everyday life. And also, and at the same time, he have taken the prescription drugs for more than 6 months before he come to my office. So the fact is that he does not get better even though he take the prescription drugs for more than 6 months. This is why he come to my office 3 months before, and now let me explain. And he had been much better in his symptoms, and his quality of life have improved drastically because he has been free from the symptoms of the variant angina over recent 3 months as he work with me. Now let me explain how to approach the fundamental causes of the disease and how to remove them. Now let me explain how to confirm the existence of the heavy metals in the patient's body. Now this is the hair mineral test and hair toxicity test. Hair toxicity test is a very valuable tool for us to evaluate the existence of the heavy metals because the heavy metals can be shown very easily in the hair mineral test. When we take a look at this image, this is exactly the hair mineral test results, and we can easily confirm the existences of the mercuries and aluminum and arsenic. These are the basic toxicities or heavy metals that affect the patient's coronary arteries or cardiovascular system. So we need to remove these toxic metals from the bodies in order to make the patient feel better. And as I said, the toxicities, the existences of these toxicities have a close relationship with the deterioration of the coronary arteries. In other words, by removing these toxic metals from the patient's body, we can make the patient improve a lot better, and this is exactly what we have to do with our patients in my office. So, as I said, the patient whose age is about 60 years of age, a male, has gotten much better as he worked with us for about 3 months, and he has been completely free from the prescription drug of nitroglycerin and for 3 months. This is a very satisfying result because before he come to my office, he have to take the nitroglycerin very frequently in order to remove the chest pains from his body. But unfortunately, as we know, the nitroglycerin is nothing but the painkillers for the patient with various angina. The various angina does not disappear even though they take the nitroglycerin very diligently, because they are just suppress the symptoms temporarily and doing nothing other than that. That is exactly why we have to remove these toxic metals, and why we have to approach the problem fundamentally, and why we have to remove the underlying causes of the disease. This is what we have to do with our patients with variant angina, and then the patients feel much better as a result of our work. First of all, we need to know some important knowledge about how to remove the toxic metals from our bodies. And first and most important thing is the mercury is now contaminating the oceans very severely. This means that some large fishes, including the salmon, tuna, and sharks, has already been contaminated with the mercury. So we have to remove these foods from our dining table, and this is very valuable knowledge in order to remove the mercuries. And another thing is the aluminum is also plays a very important role in damaging the coronary arteries, and we need to remove them. And in order to do so, we need to avoid being in contact with the aluminum devices. Some dishes that we use on everyday basis may be covered or coated with aluminum, and we need to remove the aluminum coated dishes from our dining table. And at the same time, some antacids and some canned foods also contaminated with aluminum, so we need to avoid being in contact with these foods and these antacids.
And another thing is that arsenic is also present, even it is not in large volume, not in large amount, it is also existent in the patient's body. So we need to know about how to remove the arsenic from the patient's body. And the most important thing is that unfortunately, the brown rices, which is quite eaten in larger amounts by the Asian people, is contaminated with arsenic, unfortunately. Originally, the rices has the tendency or trend of absorbing the nutrients from the ground relatively in a large amount other than other plants or vegetables. So the brown rices, unfortunately, has been contaminated with arsenic to some degree. So we recommend taking the white rices rather than the brown rices in this case, or for the patients with angina with arsenic toxicities. So these are the basic information that we need to know, and we have to use the nutritional formulas as well as the herbal formulas, which have the function of detoxifying all these three heavy metals from the patient's body, and then the patients can feel much better as they work with us for some period of time. And this is exactly what we do with our patients. The patient whose age is over 50, over 60, has felt much better, and he has been very satisfactory with the outcomes that he got from my clinical practice. Thank you very much.